Welcome to Soul Sync.
Welcome to the Soul Sync podcast. It's your girl, Sammy.
And your girl Taylor.
And we're here to talk to you guys about such an important topic today. Okay. Today, we are going to be talking about the little narrator in your head. I know you have one, and I know they can either be a bitch or an angel, but you get to decide which one you're going to allow it to be.
Period. This just reminds me of this story I heard not that long ago. It was posted all over like Google. I saw it on TikTok a couple times, and it just kept circling back to me somehow and finding its way to me. And it always stuck because it was called The Tale of Two Wolves, and it was a story from the Cherokee Indian tribe,
Mhm.
which was like super interesting. And so I have it right here. It's saying this old Cherokee told his grandson about a battle that goes on inside people's head. He
Mm.
said, "My son, the battle is between two wolves inside all of us. One is evil. It is anger, envy, jealousy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, all that crap, right? And ego. Don't forget the ego.
Ooh.
And the other wolf is good. It's joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, kindness, all of the good things in life, right? The grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked the grandfather, "Well, which wolf wins?" And the old Cherokee grandfather replied, "The one that you feed." Literally every time I think about that story, I'm like, okay, so it really is our choice. Like which wolf are you feeding inside of yourself? And it's just so crazy how it can be that simple. Like, what are you feeding your brain? Like, what is your narrator saying in your head? It can change the whole trajectory of a day, and in turn, it could change the trajectory of your entire life.
Mhm.
And it's amazing. But that story just always resonated with me, and I still wanna get a wolf tattoo on me somewhere. To
Loved
be like,
that.
"Bitch, I feed the good wolf, okay? She eats
Yes.
good."
Yes, and you can even have that on you, like on the tattoo, Good Wolf or
Mhm.
something like that.
Yeah, like, which wolf are you feeding? Do you ever think about that, people?
I fucking love that. And I feel like I can just relate to that so much because when it came to like my fitness journey, for example, I feel like that's the first thing I thought of when you were talking about these two wolves. I was like, okay, I used to struggle with that so much. Before I got into fitness and healthy living, I was so victim minded. Like, I took everything so personally. I made everything about me. And I remember I would just feel so much anger and hatred and sadness, and I relished in it. I was one of those girls that could not stop complaining to the point where I got annoyed with myself. So it wasn't until I actually started having something to put that energy towards, to put those feelings and those emotions into, that I was really able to stop feeding that bad wolf. Because I think oftentimes we find these types of emotions as something to run away from and they're not good. I kind of disagree with that. I feel like we have to face all of our emotions. They all serve a purpose and they're all feedback, right? So for me, I was getting the feedback that I was fucking unhappy, and I took that very seriously. And I knew it started with the way that I was treating myself. So it wasn't until I really started diving into my fitness journey and I started just going for walks, eating a little bit more of a whole food type of diet, just putting more intention into my habits every single day, that I noticed it was easier to feed that good wolf because I had things to back me up of why I could feel happy, of why I could feel joy, why I could feel just straight up proud of myself. I think that's another thing that we just don't feel often enough. We don't feel proud of ourselves.
Girl, I totally like, I resonate so much with all that. For someone who's been through, like, a depressive, type state before, like, couple of times, I've learned that it's so comfy to stay in the victimhood mindset, and it's so easy to just keep feeding it, like, negativity, because that's all. all that your brain wants. It's like, I'm just, like, so comfortable just saying shit that I've been saying, like, you don't wanna break that habitual thought loop that you have just on replay, like and it's also another misconception that it's hard to break it
Mhm.
because anything can become a habit, literally anything, and I think there's so much power in remembering that and knowing that to be a fact of like, I am consciously choosing to make negative self-talk, putting myself down, being the victim in this story, my main headset, like the main thing listening to and the main thing I'm doing. So the first thing to change that is to be aware of it, I
Mhm.
think. And to start taking notes. I know that's how I personally got out of it a lot, was I would say something so negative, and luckily, if you have a great support system around you and you have friends that hold you accountable like you did for me, and you'd be like, "Girl, no, you're not stupid, or you're not dumb, or no, like, this feeling, it wasn't your fault." Like, you know what I mean? Is I mean, I'm so grateful for that, but when you even don't have that, you have to check yourself into reality every once in a while and be like, "What is coming out of my mouth?" Like, "Why am I saying that?" And then it goes back to, "What is coming in my head? Why am I thinking that?" So, it can be done. It's not as hard as you think it is. You just gotta start with that one positive thought to counteract that one negative thought.
I completely agree. And if you think about it, right? Just as much as there's momentum coming from negative thoughts and negative mindset, there's just as much momentum when it comes to having a positive perspective. I know for me, like, I feel the same way about you. Like, when you are willing to do the work, you're willing to continue to remind yourself why it's important to have a positive perspective and to make these changes in your life, you're gonna be more willing to do it. Like,
Mhm.
I completely see what you're saying when it comes to the momentum because think about it, just as easy as it is to stay in that negative mindset, that negative perspective, going down that cycle, it is just as easy to build that with a positive perspective. I've noticed that if you continue to have a positive perspective and you choose that every single day, you're willing to do the work, you're willing to do what needs to be done, you also create that momentum in your life and in others around you. So it's like the more positive that you can be, I feel like it's contagious. It just
Mhm.
has to keep going. I mean, think about it with me and you, right? We've had so many different experiences where I'm really struggling or you're really struggling and we have to get each other out of that muck, right? It always is because one of us is seeing the brighter side of things. The other person is seeing that positive perspective. I know for you last year when it came to me wanting to go all in on my business, move to another state, do all of these things that I said that I was going to do. I got a new car and Nala got certified. Just all these things that scared the living crap out of me. You wrote it down with me and you were like, if you look at it from this point of view, you have so much time. And you gave me a completely different perspective. And that has literally been the catapult moment that changed my life. I swear. Don't give me that look. I swear. It was a catapult moment that changed my life. And that's what made me realize this shit is contagious. Okay. What you tell yourself is contagious. So we have to make sure that it's things for our bigger purpose and things that we would want to tell our best friend.
Girl, I love that so much.
Ugh, I
Go
felt that from the
on. What
heart.
else? When you have something stable like this, it's like if one of us falls, you know that you can count on the other to just pick
Mhm,
them up
mhm.
and just like talk them back into reality and be like, girl, perspective.
Preach it.
So, one trick that I use that really helps my perspective and keep it in check and keep myself positive is I would start celebrating like little tiny wins in my head. And I would congratulate myself on the most simple, mundane tasks ever that I would do throughout my day. So, something as small as, like, waking up, getting out of bed, and just, like, brushing my teeth. Getting out of bed and looking at myself in the mirror and saying a positive affirmation, or, like, starting my day just, like, in a good mood, sometimes I had to put myself there physically. So, any little task that I would do, in my head, I would go, "Good job, Taylor, you did it. You did that." And to me, it was the equivalent of having a checklist of things to do, and then, like, sometimes you add, like, one that's, like, super simple to, like, kind of balance out all, like, the really hard ones so that, like, you can feel that little bit of, like, joy and excitement
Mhm.
crossing it off, and you're like, "Oh, I crossed something off." That was kind of like the equivalent to me, and it did work, like, it put my head in such a positive mood of like, "Okay, I'm getting the ball rolling." Like, the positive thoughts are rolling. So, I would do one positive thing, and I would celebrate it so much in my head that it just, like, accelerated and made me wanna do more good things for myself. And they wouldn't be so simple then. They would start getting more, more complex, and then my checklist would look more like do yoga or meditate or, celebrate yourself when you're looking at yourself in the mirror and giving yourself a pep talk. So it's like pulling yourself out physically of situations like that in your head can just projectile you forward into doing so many other tasks that you have to do
Mhm.
and doing it in a good way and doing it in a way that works for you.
Oh my god. I completely agree. And I know this because literally when you told me about this method, take it from a girl who does not celebrate herself enough. Like I work so hard, but I just never feel like I'm actually doing enough. I always have things on my checklist that are never ending. Especially as a business owner, it's like I really had to find solitude and peace in the fact that there is always going to be more work to be done. The job is never done. So celebrating myself was something I had to train myself to do. Okay. I did not have this happen naturally. I have so many girls come to me and they're like, Sammy, it must be exhausting being positive all the time. It must be exhausting putting all this energy into yourself and into your happiness and your health and all of these things. And yeah, it is. I'll be so straight
Mhm.
up. But celebrating my wins is fucking easy. And it's made everything I have to do throughout my day to day life so much easier, dude. Like, because, like you said, it's like, yes, Sammy, like, you absolutely crushed that live for your clients. Or, yes, Sammy, you crushed that workout. Oh my God, you got a PR. That's incredible. And I feel like those are not things we tell ourselves every single
Mhm.
day. And I see that with my clients, the ones that celebrate themselves and that are constantly coming to me and being like, Coach Sammy, look at what I did. For example, my client Alicia, she's been with me for months now. We've been together for probably about 3 to 4 months, but we have literally lost 18 fucking pounds. And the entire way, she's been celebrating herself the whole time. She did all her hot girl dance parties. She came to me every single time she lost a couple of pounds and she let me know. Not only did she put it in her check in, but she literally sent me a message like, hey, just wanted to let you know this. I'm celebrating my win. There's such a different energy when it comes to that. It's just such a different discipline, a different dedication to yourself and to your goals. So, thank you because you changed my life with this method of celebrating yourself. And I get to change others. Like that has been a huge momentum in my clients' results is learning to celebrate themselves.
Oh my god. Isn't it crazy to think about how, like, one person can affect one person, can
Yeah.
affect one person, can affect so many people. So,
Mhm.
like, the fact that first of all, I'm so happy that you resonated with that and that worked with you, and that's all it's about is, like, finding what works and, like, any way you can be a cheerleader in your head and not someone that's, like, putting yourself down.
Mhm.
And I used to be a cheerleader in high school, so maybe this is where it comes from, my pep in my head. But I have so much pep in my head for whatever reason, like, I'm a peppy bitch. That should be, like, my new Instagram handle or something. Peppy bitch. You're peppy bitch.
I love it.
And in such, like, a delusional way, it started of me just being like, "Fuck it," Like, I have so many negative thoughts, like, I'm just getting so sick of beating myself down every day, and that is really what it comes down to, like, are you beating yourself down? Why are you being so hard on yourself? And, like, if you're easy to forgive other people and be like, "It's okay, try harder next time." Why
Mhm.
can't you tell yourself that in your head?
Um,
Like, it's kinda crazy to think about if you really dissect it like that. But, one thing I don't remember where I learned this from, but I always come back to this exercise, and it's like an inner child exercise, and it's when you're not giving yourself enough grace in your life, or you're being too hard on yourself, and what I always do is I picture myself as younger me, and I made the same mistake that now me has made. So it's like, how would you tell yourself that you made a mistake and to be better next time and to just be gentle on yourself? Because that's another big part of perspective is, like, how you're talking to yourself and, like, are you giving yourself grace? Are you being gentle, or are you yelling at yourself, or are you calling yourself names? Are you saying like, "Oh, I'm so stupid. I can't believe I failed that test." Like,
mhm.
"Oh my god, I'm so stupid. I fail at everything. I always do this to myself. Ugh, I'm so hard on myself." And then it piggybacks, for a never-ending chain of like, "Ugh, why am I like this?" So it's like the inner child moment of looking at yourself and giving yourself that time to really be gentle and have extra grace and extra understanding. Like, if you're like that to everyone else, why aren't you like that to yourself?
Mm,
You
that's
know?
such a good point, and I feel like I relate so much, especially in the terms of, like, yelling at yourself, but I think another really good thing to think about is how do you feel about yourself? Like, I know for
Mhm.
me, I definitely struggled with those thoughts in my head. I mean, I would look in the mirror and be like, "You look fat today. You're chubby today." Just being mean, calling myself a potato, pizza crust. I would be like, "Nah, I look like a Smurf today." That was something I literally used to say. Do you remember that at Sunset? I remember I used to call
Oh,
myself a Smurf.
I
Just not
do
nice.
remember that.
Yeah, just, like, not nice things, like, why would you ever say that to yourself? So it's that, but it's also the way that I would feel about myself, like, when you were talking about, like, you didn't get a good grade on a test or you failed at something, like, I, to this day, struggle with failure. It's, like, something that, like, in me just, like, breaks, and it's a feeling, that feeling of unworthiness, and that's where that compassion needs to come in, and you need to tell yourself that you love yourself because I love the inner child part of this. Those feelings, those thoughts oftentimes are our inner child, or there are other people who have said those things to us that now we're repeating to be true.
Yes.
And both of those things are so powerful. But is it in a way that actually benefits us? For me, it wasn't. That shit was like literally tearing me apart from the inside out. And I realized that through this, I was being my own worst enemy. And that's why I have such a strong belief on a positive perspective because I went from being that girl that was her own worst enemy, that literally knocked herself down. And honestly, sometimes still does, to someone that tries to just make herself proud every day and just see the good because I'll be honest, that's a hell of a lot easier than dealing with what I used to put up with for myself.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my god, I love that story. I do remember when you did call yourself a Smurf, and it was the same type of thing when we would catch each other, and then we'd be like, "Girl, no, like, that's not the narrative we're telling ourselves, that's not what we're going with." Because what we speak manifests, and, we're the first people to know that that's true. Like, it's also good to point out that today's culture, I feel like, social media and everything, it's, like, kind of falls under dark humor where you would speak negativity and negative things about yourself to make it funny, and I am the biggest, like, person to do that. Like, I'm getting better and better, but it's just so funny to me or so easy to just make a joke that's, like, ripping on myself or being mean to myself. But later on, when you're kinda, like, sitting with yourself and you don't have that joking audience anymore, and you're just kind of like, Okay, that was a little I don't feel good right now. That was a little uncomfortable. Like, yeah, it's funny, but it's also really damaging. And it's something that is so normalized in social media and like pop culture today and stuff like that. Like, okay, it's funny, but then what? You
Yeah.
know? So there's like a lot to keep track of in that way. And that also does go with like mental discipline and keeping yourself in check. And I know you are so good at that. And that is something like whenever I think of that, I instantly think of Sammy because you're obviously you're human and everyone falls off, but you're the best example in my life at least of someone that has just like a strict mental laser focus on something and all those thoughts can just be like kind of pushed aside. And to be honest, like a lot of people who are working out and are very fitness based, they have that discipline in their head. So maybe it's like if you could use that like fitness, you know, discipline to shift into just like positive thinking, positive mindset, motivational, you're doing great thinking. It really goes hand in hand, I feel like, at the end of the day. So, Coach Sammy, girl, you do more than just coach how to lose body fat, gain muscle. No, you're coaching on discipline and how to like keep your mind sharp and keep on a straight and narrow path. I'm just
Preach.
saying, I'm just speaking the truth over here.
Oh shit, keep hyping me up. Go on. But you
And
know what? I feel like thank you so much because everyone needs to hear that, you know? Like I just said, I definitely struggle with not feeling like I'm doing enough. So for you to say that I'm somebody in your life that's impacting you in that way and inspiring you in that way, it makes me feel so good. And I think the number one thing I've learned about having a positive perspective is just the fact that there's peace in it. Like there's peace in just not being perfect at something and just allowing life and allowing things to happen. Okay. For example, this morning, this has nothing to do with fitness, mind you. This morning, my little Sir Boomy, cutest bundle of joy, I've manifested him for months, broke my TV. He broke my TV. And it was so crazy because I was having the best morning ever. Like, talk about discipline. I woke up, I immediately journaled. I was listening to my coach on his podcast. He was talking about some deep shit that was really resonating with. And next thing you know, I hear a massive boom and my TV is on the floor. And I was like, "What? I'm doing all this work right now. I'm literally working on myself, putting all this good energy out. Why would this happen?" And I had a major thought of shit. You can feel really good, really happy, really peaceful, and then you can feel angry, sad, annoyed, maybe even fear. All of these emotions are always happening. They're always present. And I was reading this quote and it was talking about the fact that happiness, everyone wants happiness to be the goal. And I know that's been my goal my entire life. And now I'm really rethinking whether or not I want that to be the goal after hearing this quote. And it talked about how happiness shouldn't be the goal, peace should be. Because when you have peace, you allow happiness to come in as much as it can. Obviously, we all want to be happy. We want it to come in, we want it to last, but we don't need that to be whole and centered within ourselves. We can handle all the emotions. And because our goal is peace, that means we can allow sadness and anger and frustration to come in. And we hope that we can move through it faster each time, but we allow ourselves that grace and that period to experience that. And I think having a positive perspective, you understand that there's an importance to all emotions, to all things that happen in our everyday life, because you just understand that everything happens for a reason. And there's so much peace in that acceptance and surrendering. you know? And I just wonder, like, shit, if we just allowed ourselves to feel and we didn't resist so much, would life be so painful? Would all these things that you're complaining about or that you're struggling with right now, if you just resisted and said, fuck, I cannot do anything, I'm gonna allow this to happen and I'm gonna feel peace about it, I'm gonna choose to have this positive perspective, would it be so painful? No, it genuinely wouldn't be, and I'm talking about that from life experience. It is harder to resist it rather than just allow yourself to find that peace and centering within what you choose to believe. Boom.
Holy shit. Somebody check on Sammy's microphone because there are sparks coming out of it.
Phew.
There is, oh my God. I really felt like you were speaking to me. You know what I mean? Like, I was just sitting there like, yeah, yeah, that's so true. Like, damn.
I
Oh, I
love
love
that.
that. I love that feeling.
That was my deep thought the other day, and honestly, I wanna be super transparent. A lot of these are thoughts I've had about my damn self, okay? A lot of what Taylor and I are talking about here on this podcast is just stuff that we've either gone through in our lives, are currently
Mhm.
going through, or shit, we might be going through because we gotta be open to all the obstacles,
So true. Oh my God.
knowing
And
there'll be a solution.
yes, oh my God, always. And that's a perspective shift in itself, knowing that there's always something, there's always a solution. But I love so much of what you said. I can't, I don't even know where to start.
Thank
Shit.
you. I was just speaking from the heart, you know?
Yeah. And girl, like, I love the idea that you mentioned that we need to look for peace rather than happiness because we are emotional and energetic beings. So
Mhm.
we are going to feel all the feelings, whether we want to or not. You could push off a feeling as much as you want, and you can try your absolute hardest to not feel something. But the duality of life is there is no love without pain, you know, there's no happiness without sorrow. And we're just here to feel everything. And that's why we came here. That's why we're having this experience. Our shaman told us that. And shout out Mark again is our second Mark shout out, might I add. So I feel like if we shout him out enough, he'll end up coming on the podcast.
I didn't tell you, but he already agreed.
He did?
Yay,
Oh my God, I didn't know that. That's so exciting.
well, now everyone knows live. Mark is going to be
Okay.
coming on the podcast. Taylor is actually coming to visit me next week, mind you. So when we're together, we are all going to have a little session and have a podcast.
Oh my God, that was the
Uh,
best tangent ever.
I'm so excited.
Oh, okay, so that's next week, so y'all better tune into that, okay? That is, like, special. We gonna charge for that one. Shit. But going back to, like, the feelings that you gain from the hard times too. So it's like, yes, the good times, it's valuable perspective to have good perspective, but also when you're in a deep, dark place, you gain the knowledge of what it's like to be in that place.
Mhm.
And you can really help someone out in the future when you're out of that to pull someone else out of that situation because you just know. And then it all kind of comes together and you're like, this is why that had to happen. And this is why I had to feel those feelings. So if someone's struggling, just know like there's someone out there that has felt that before and they gained the perspective that you have right now and
Mhm.
you're never alone. So like reach out to them or if they're reaching out to you, like maybe accept the help because they know. They've been there.
They done that.
They've done that.
Seriously, I love that because I feel like a lot of the people that I look up to are people who have gone through what I went through, or they're living a life that I want to live. So I feel like
Mhm.
that is a very important part. of having a positive perspective is knowing who to surround yourself with and whose mindsets are actually going to benefit you. That's one of the number one reasons I always preach coaching, whether it's mentorship, whether it's just listening to a podcast. I mean, I listened to Michaela J for 5 years, just literally like a sponge, soaking up all the information, knowledge, and value she had. Now I get to be with her coaching in the MMM method, but I never would have thought that I was able to do that. So even if you're just taking someone that you don't even feel like you will ever meet or you'll ever be able to reach and strive to that, do it fucking anyway because you never know how much you will gain from that for yourself.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. And shout out Michaela J. I literally listened to her for like 3 hours straight on my drive home from work today, and I felt so aligned and, like, on top of the world after it. But a lot of what she talks about, I feel like, is, like, manifesting ties really well with perspective-based thinking,
Mhm.
and it's all how you shift it, and if you're channeling someone's perspective, you are kind of shifting into how they think and how
Mhm.
they perceive things themselves. So, if we're listening to a lot of Michaela J, we're seeing her perspective is this or something better,
Yeah.
is one of direct quotes that she says from it. It's this or something better. And, the quotes of like, it's not a failure, it's a redirection, or it's God's
Mhm.
protection is a redirection. There's so many, like literally so many. It's like pick one that you resonate with and that just like sets your soul on fire. Pick that one and run with it and believe it to its core.
Mhm.
That's the one that we're riding with. And if it's a healthy one, it can be your anchor in so many situations, especially for failing a test. Like I would know. It was not a no. It was a just try again later.
I love that.
It wasn't a you're a failure. It's a you're doing great. You've just been through a lot of shit this last month, so try a little harder the next time. And yeah, so I'm manifesting that pass.
And that's why it's
Into
already
the
done.
world.
No, no, no. That is why it is already done because you manifested it and because you failed the first one. And this is exactly what I told Taylor the first time she told me. She was all bummed about it and she was so upset. And I said, I was like, girl, now you know what's on the test. Okay. You know what the standard is. You've had
Mhm.
that experience. And because you went through that, that's why this next time around, you're passing that shit. Not only are you passing it, okay, you're passing it with flying colors. Coach Sammy is coming out to yell at you. You're passing it with
I'm dead.
flying colors. That's what we are saying. So everyone send good energy to Taylor because she's gonna crush this shit. She's gonna show y'all the power of a positive perspective.
Damn, y'all just saw the power of it through Miss Sammy. That was amazing. We pick each other up. Okay.
I'll do my best, you know.
Yes. Another thing I do wanna note quickly, I don't know if other people do this or if this is just like a weird me thing, but if you're in the victimhood mindset and you're kind of stuck in it, for whatever reason, sometimes this works for me where I will go all in on the victimhood mindset. I will just like feed into it and not change until I hit like a very rock bottom. Just to teach myself, like, okay, you felt rock bottom. Do you like how it feels? Is that comfy to you still? And then it kind of like does like an alchemy thing for me where it's like there's only up from here and then everything just kind of changes and then I just like kick it into high gear. Do you ever do that? Or am I the only one that just like chooses that weird method?
I'm gonna be straight up. That's a you thing. But I feel like I definitely did that in terms of my fitness journey because I'm always looking back at all my photos, how many times I went to the gym. And there were so many phases where I would go to the gym, but I would just straight up self sabotage and I would go eat
Mhm.
out. I would go drink afterwards. I would do all these things that were literally against the steps towards my goals, right? However, I do feel like I needed to get to that rock bottom. I needed to get to that point where I was just so unhappy in the mirror. Exactly like you said. It was like, damn, there is only up from here because I felt so low. So,
Mhm.
yes, that has worked for me. And I tell my girls, I'm very straight up. I'm like, I got myself to the point that I was so low that my only option was to love myself. My only option was to try to make every area of my life better because I was so tired of being straight up miserable. I was tired of being in the victim mindset. So I totally relate with that. However, since losing my weight, I think that's one of the number one things I try to resist is even getting back into that energy because I know for me, once I get there, it's hard to come out. So I like to try to catch myself before I even get to that. So be a little bit more aware in the mindset. So for me, binge eating has always been my struggle. And I don't want to actually say that. I'm going to correct myself right here, right now. It used to be my struggle. It's something I still struggle with and I still overcome with today. But perspective, it's something I used to struggle with. And I feel like back then I would binge eat and I would binge eat. And I would feel so bad about it that it would cause me to binge eat again. And I would just do it more and more. And that would lead me to put on my weight. However, now when I notice I'm binge eating, the first thing I start to ask myself is, okay, Sammy, what are you feeling right now? What are you avoiding right now? What is this food doing for you? And I try to catch it in the moment. So I feel like that was just a really good example. But yeah, I would say I try to catch myself before I even get there because I don't like that feeling. I'd rather just fight it before I get to that low point.
Yeah. No, I totally feel that. It's like my brain is like, "Huh, what's the worst that could happen if I just keep going to bed at 5 in the morning and eating shit?" And, like, I, like, challenge my own brain, it's the weirdest thing, and then I'm like, "Okay, you wanna find out? Let's find out." And then I get so tired of it, where I'm physically just like, all I wanna do is up level. All I wanna do is jump
Yeah.
out of bed, and I just wanna fix this, and I wanna do this, and I wanna do that, and then everything just gets kicked into high gear for me, but for some reason, it takes sometimes when it depends what it is. It takes my back being against the wall and being so fed up with myself to actually make that drastic change and to just, like, jump into action with certain things. So yeah, okay, I thought I was the only one that did that, but it's good to see, yeah, it's healthy. Because you hit rock bottom, you always take something with you on the way up. You've never been to rock bottom and came up empty-handed. There's always so many lessons and so many new perspectives that you gain from being down there that serve, like, endless purposes in your life and endless growth to come from it, so never regret being in a depressive state or being in a place where you used to be, like the version of you that you outgrew. Never ever take that for granted and never forget that you maybe visited rock bottom, but now you're above sea level, baby. We are swimming with the dolphins. Okay. We used to live in a pineapple under the sea. Now SpongeBob reference, Sammy. I gotta get you on your SpongeBob game, girl.
Girl, I haven't watched that since I was a kid, I'm sorry, but
I'm just
finish it,
playing.
what was it?
I'm just playing. We used to be SpongeBob. Now we're not. That's my point. We're keeping this in. I'm not cutting that out.
Either way, everything
But
you said was so beautiful.
thank you, girl. Came from my heart. I love that you aren't too SpongeBob educated because that means that I can teach you everything I know about SpongeBob. So, with that being said, I'm gonna go update Sammy on some SpongeBob things, catch her up to speed. Maybe we'll watch an episode or 2,
Ooh, that
just
sounds
to get
fun.
just to get some, good, happy, go lucky perspective into your life.
Ooh, it's
So
a BFF, bestie dinner night. That sounds perfect. That's exactly what we're gonna do after this podcast.
oh my god, hell yeah. Watch some SpongeBob.
And
Shit. Okay. So everyone has homework tonight. No, it's not to watch SpongeBob, but your homework is to celebrate your little wins in your head. Be the cheerleader in your head. Don't be a Debbie Downer. We're going to feed the good wolf, not the
Mhm.
bad wolf. And we're going to have the best perspective that we can have. And if you need to sit in your shit for a little bit longer, sit in it. But girl, it stinks. So get out of it.
And we're your sign to do so. So we hope that this has lightened up your mood and let you know that it might be a little hard to get out of the muck of it, but you can always do so with a positive perspective.
Always. So, guys, we will catch you next Thursday where we're going to be spitting some more game at you. And who knows, it might be the episode where we bring on our shaman, or that could be, future episodes. But you just have to stay tuned and find out. And hope you guys have a great rest of your night.
Peace
Bye.
out. Bye.
Bye.